Hi, I am Kayla Eldridge. I am back again to share a case study entitled When a Student's Rights Are Wronged. First, I will do a case summary of the case study, When a Student's Rights Are Wronged. There are multiple people involved in this case study. The first is Miguel Rodriguez, an up-and-coming football quarterback who started varsity as a sophomore. He was injured in a football game late in the season and was left paralyzed from the waist down. He spent months in rehabilitation and was ready to come back to school. His parents are Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez. He also has 3 brothers. His family was sitting on the front row watching his game when he was injured. Next, we have Dr. Harvey, who is the superintendent for Dover School District. He has a great working relationship with the schools and the community. I am Dr. Kayla Eldridge, the principal of Nottingham High School. Miss Guzman is the counselor at Nottingham High and the one who made the schedule change that took Miguel out of class that is required for his entrance to college. Finally, Howard Carey is Miguel's lawyer, who is actively pursuing Miguel's rights under free appropriate public education and Section 504. Miguel was removed from his biology course, which he needed to be admitted to college, and was put in another science class that would fulfill only his high school requirements. Miss Guzman made this decision because his biology classroom was on the second floor and Miguel would not be able to access the classroom from his wheelchair. The case took place in Dover, New Jersey, home of Dover Unified School District, where both academics and football are valued by the community. Nottingham High School serves about 3,200 students in a mostly updated building, although about a quarter of the building has not been renovated due to funding issues. Miguel's injury occurred on a Friday night during a football game close to playoff time. The classrooms involved are a biology lab on the second floor of the school and a science classroom on the first floor. Since the game was a playoff game, I would expect it to be about October when the injury occurred. He was in rehab for a few months prior to returning to school, so it's probably about January by this time. When Miguel's lawyer comes to the school, he brings up 2 legal points. The attorney stated, "My name is Howard Carey and I represent Miguel Hernandez. I understand we might have a problem. Are you familiar with Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973? Do you understand the implications of denying my client access to a classroom at this school? My client has the right to free and appropriate public education. He needs specific services, and these include access to the biology class and anything else we deem necessary to ensure that Miguel's rights are protected." Section 504 states that people must be given reasonable accommodations to have a free and appropriate education when that person has a known disability. Miguel does have a disability, and it does limit his life function of walking, so he should qualify for a 504 plan. He wouldn't qualify for an IEP because he does not meet prong 2, having a need for special education. The term free appropriate public education means special education and related services that A, have been provided at public expense under public supervision and direction and without charge. B, meet the standards of the state education agency. C, include an appropriate preschool, elementary school, or secondary school education in the state involved. And D, are provided in conformity with the individualized education program required under Section 1414D of this title. Though the lawyer didn't mention it, even if he didn't qualify for a 504, he still should have access to his education under Title II of the Americans with Disability Acts. The purpose of the law is to make sure people with disabilities have the same rights and opportunities as everyone else. Some might wonder if payment to the family would need to occur due to the injury occurring during a school event. Athletes typically sign a form prior to competing that explains the liability for injuries sustained during a sport are not the responsibility of the school, but the responsibility of the family. Football is an aggressive sport, and most people know the risks going into it. If you look at this situation from an ethical standpoint, I would wonder if the district is putting an emphasis on football over academics based on the fact that the school held an assembly to give recognition to Miguel for his great football skills, but didn't think to work out to ensure that he had excellent academic performance as well. So this is the issue at hand as I see it. Miguel has been denied free appropriate public education because the counselor changed his schedule from a biology class to a science class without consent of the parents when Miguel needs biology to be admitted to college, when she should have initiated a 504 plan instead of changing his class schedule. There is some missing data that we aren't for sure about, so let's take a look at that. As for people, we don't know what the biology teacher has to say. Miguel has presumably been doing his work from home and keeping up his classes per the case study, but we don't know. We know that the school has not been completely renovated due to funding, but have other places been looked at? Are there other options for him to take biology from an alternative classroom? Is it an option to move that biology class to a first level? Has funding been put into place in the future for renovations to be complete, and is that in process? As for 504s, who is the school's administrator of the 504s? Is it the counselor, the social worker, myself? It isn't stated who would have done that job. Would he be eligible for services under the 504? We think so. We don't know what the district's history is for providing special services, so we don't know if there's already a history of not providing services or if they've been good about providing services when needed, but this particular one happened to slip through the cracks. So what priorities? Let's take a look at those. Our number one priority in education should always be the student. Miguel deserves the right to a free and appropriate public education. Number two would be a process review to find out where the situation went wrong. Is it simply that the ball got dropped, or do we have other students who may not be getting FAPE as well? We should work to ensure communication with parents about special services is planned and intentional. This is an obvious miss to keep parents out of the planning for Miguel even after the parents came in for a meeting with the counselor. When they set up that initial meeting with the counselor, a 504 should have been proposed. Next would be reestablishing a relationship with the family. We don't want them to pursue a lawsuit that could be damaging to the district, the superintendent, the school, myself, or Ms. Guzman. It is clear that we need to have some training for staff, at least for Ms. Guzman, to be sure the requirements for IDA and 504 are clear for our staff members. Last, planning to get the renovations for the school to be ADA compliant needs to be started. Renovations need to be done in order to keep this from being an issue in the future. Next, let's look at some options or solutions for this case. First, we could do nothing. Next, we could give Miguel free and appropriate public education by either moving the class to the first level, giving him an independent study, or having someone carry him to the classroom. We could also update the communication process for special education and create a communication plan for speaking with parents. And the last option would be renovating the school. If we look and evaluate those options, option one really isn't a viable option because it doesn't give Miguel the same opportunity as other students in the school. Option three, not something really that we can get quickly to get Miguel his free and appropriate public education he deserves. That leaves us with option two. The pros would enable giving Miguel free appropriate public education and allowing him to take the course he needs for college entry. We would update the policies and communication processes to keep this event from happening in the future. And it would give better accessibility to our future students. The cons would be that we could get some pushback from staff or students on changing that classroom. So the process for problem solving has been followed. I was able to identify the problem, which is denying free appropriate public education for Miguel. I then explored the missing data for people, places, and programs, and also my priorities. Then I reviewed the options for the plan that I thought would be best. I evaluated the plan the best I can up to this point, and now I need to act and move forward knowing that I may have to revisit the problem and try again. So what does my plan look like for implementation? What is best? First, I would need to look at the master schedule to find available classrooms that are accessible for Miguel to move the biology class into. Second, I would need to work with the biology teacher to find the best classroom to fit the needs of that class. Number 3, I would need to update Miguel's schedule back to biology rather than in just the science class. Number 4, I would need to meet with the Rodriguez family to ensure that they are happy with this outcome and work towards rebuilding that trust of the school. If they're wanting to move forward with legal actions, we would need to have our district's legal team ready to go. 5, I would need to work with the special education director to find the best process for 504s moving forward. This would include communication plans for the parents. Had the process been followed, we wouldn't be in this situation right now. Ms. Guzman could have had the appropriate people at the original meeting, and then everyone's needs would have been met, and we wouldn't be facing possible legal ramifications. I would ensure Ms. Guzman and the rest of the staff had accurate information on the process moving forward, and I would meet with Dr. Harvey to initiate the plan for renovations for the school. These are the references that I used throughout my slideshow and to review this case. And this is my conclusion. The correlation that we are looking at for this specific case is to understand and demonstrate the capacity to evaluate, cultivate, and advocate for equitable access to educational resources, technologies, and opportunities that support the educational success and well-being of each student. Throughout this case study, I was able to evaluate a situation, cultivate relationships with staff, parents, and students, and advocate for Miguel's access to resources. In Miguel's case, going to college was important to he and his family, and that needed to be a priority. If the counselor had seen that from the beginning and followed the protocol in place, the student would not have been removed from the class in the first place. Relevancy, the assignment was relevant to my current learning about special education and leadership because the case put me in a leadership role and had me come up with solutions as I would a leader in the future. My knowledge has increased of not only federal and state laws and standards, but also our district policies and procedures. I will be a better leader after completing this task, as it has made me look at the case from multiple perspectives and find the best solution for all stakeholders. Looking at my reflection on this assignment, I hope this assignment will influence the decisions I make in the future, as I have thought through this case and looked at other cases along the way. As I come across situations in the future, I will need to know who I can turn to for guidance and assistance in future situations. There will be parents with concerns, and I need to be able to handle those as they arise, while keeping in mind the state of the school as well as the school district. In this case, renovations of the school are needed, but they don't have to be complete right away in order to solve this problem. Thank you and have a great day.